boast, boast. Plague, plague. Accuracy, accuracy. Accurate, accurate. Murmur, murmur. Coverage, coverage. Bush, bush. Pat, pat. Falter, falter. Mutual, mutual. Vanity, vanity. Vain, vain. Beware, beware. Wary, wary. Utmost, utmost. Warily, warily. Unwary, unwary. Utmost, utmost. Longitude, longitude. Latitude, latitude. Neutral, neutral. Neutralize, neutralize. Exertion, exertion. Exert, exert.
Two, two.
Proportion, proportion. Selfless, selfless. Specimen, specimen.
State of the art, state of the art.
Uproot, uproot.
Worn out, worn out.
Devoid, devoid. Devise, devise. Device, device. Vision, vision. Visionary, visionary. Visual, visual. Visualize, visualize. Visually, visually. Visible, visible. Invisible, invisible. Supervise, supervise. Revise, revise. Revision, revision. Improvise, improvise.
boast openly, boast openly, boast of one's success, boast of one's success, an idle boast, an idle boast, boast of one's strength, boast of one's strength, boast a world-class level, boast a world-class level, boast idly, boast idly, he boasts too much, he boasts too much, a proud boast, a proud boast, the pneumonic plague, the pneumonic plague, the black plague, the black plague, the white plague, the white plague, the plague of AIDS, the plague of AIDS, the London plague, the London plague, a plague of war, a plague of war, a plague of locusts, a plague of locusts, a plague of rats, a plague of rats, to be plagued by doubt, to be plagued by doubt, a visitation of plague, a visitation of plague, I was plagued to death, I was plagued to death, factual accuracy, factual accuracy, ensure the absolute accuracy, ensure the absolute accuracy, have high accuracy rate, have high accuracy rate, mathematical accuracy, mathematical accuracy, pinpoint accuracy, pinpoint accuracy, accurate to within 3 millimeters, accurate to within 3 millimeters, an accurate map, an accurate map, be very accurate, be very accurate, an accurate description, an accurate description, an accurate account, an accurate account, heart murmur, murmur along, the murmur of a stream, the murmur of a stream, the murmur of conversation, the murmur of conversation, a murmur of voices, a murmur of voices, without a murmur, without a murmur, murmur disagreement, let out a murmur, let out a murmur, murmur gently, murmur gently, murmur complaint, murmur complaint, murmur with discontent, murmur with discontent, media coverage, newspaper coverage, newspaper coverage, give prominent coverage, give prominent coverage, receive coverage, receive coverage, live coverage of the World Cup, live coverage of the World Cup, tonight's live coverage of the hockey game, tonight's live coverage of the hockey game, saturation coverage, saturation coverage, in-depth news coverage, in-depth news coverage, competition in coverage, competition in coverage, medical coverage, medical coverage, comprehensive coverage, comprehensive coverage, TV coverage, TV coverage, front page coverage, front page coverage, building coverage ratio, building coverage ratio, radar coverage, radar coverage, revoke coverage, revoke coverage,
Coverage of loss, coverage of loss, insurance coverage, insurance coverage, a rose bush, a rose bush, holly bushes, holly bushes, live in the bush, live in the bush, take to the bush, take to the bush, a thorny bush, a thorny bush, a prickly bush, a prickly bush, beat about the bush, beat about the bush, trim a bush, trim a bush, bang the bush, bang the bush, bush fire, bush fire. She patted the dog on the head. She patted the dog on the head. A pat on the head, a pat on the head. Give a pat answer, give a pat answer. Falter an apology, falter an apology. Falter out an excuse, falter out an excuse. Falter in one's determination, falter in one's determination. Mutual enemies, mutual enemies. Mutual aid, mutual aid. Mutual respect, mutual respect. Mutual understanding, mutual understanding. mutual affection, mutual affection, a mutual aid society, a mutual aid society, in mutual agreement, in mutual agreement, decide by mutual consent, decide by mutual consent, mutual distrust, mutual distrust, divorce by mutual agreement, divorce by mutual agreement, inflate the vanity, inflate the vanity, tickle a person's vanity, tickle a person's vanity, do something out of vanity, do something out of vanity, the vanity of human wishes, the vanity of human wishes, the vanity of life, the vanity of life, feminine vanity, feminine vanity, driven by vanity, driven by vanity, intellectual vanity, intellectual vanity, sheer vanity, sheer vanity, be in vain, be in vain, hope in vain, hope in vain, vain entreaties, vain entreaties, vain regrets, vain regrets, vain efforts, vain efforts, vain attempts, vain attempts, vain titles, vain titles, die in vain, die in vain, a vain attempt, a vain attempt, vain words, vain words, empty words, empty words,
In the vain hope of success. In the vain hope of success. Vain promises. Vain promises. Vain distinctions. Vain distinctions. Vain daydreams of youth. Vain daydreams of youth. A very vain man. A very vain man. Vain boasts. Vain boasts. Beware of fire. Beware of fire. Beware of thieves. Beware of thieves. Beware of skidding. Beware of skidding. Beware of savage dogs. Beware of savage dogs. Beware of bogus imitations. Beware of bogus imitations. Beware of poor imitations. Beware of poor imitations. Beware of pickpockets. Beware of pickpockets. You must beware of strangers. You must beware of strangers. A wary fox. A wary fox. He is wary of strangers. He is wary of strangers. A wary politician. A wary politician. Keep a wary eye on a person. Keep a wary eye on a person. Do one's utmost. Do one's utmost. Try one's utmost. Try one's utmost. Exert one's utmost. Exert one's utmost. The utmost efforts. The utmost efforts. With utmost secrecy. With utmost secrecy. Act with utmost caution. Act with utmost caution. Utmost respect. Utmost respect. Utmost urgency. Utmost urgency. Utmost precision. Utmost precision. With one's utmost sincerity. With one's utmost sincerity. With the utmost pleasure. With the utmost pleasure. In the utmost danger. In the utmost danger. To the utmost end of the earth. To the utmost end of the earth. Go warily. Go warily. Tread warily. Tread warily. An unwary foe. An unwary foe. An unwary victim. An unwary victim. Catch the unwary. Catch the unwary. Trip up the unwary. Trip up the unwary. The longitude of the island. The longitude of the island. The west longitude. The west longitude. Lines of longitude and latitude. Lines of longitude and latitude. At a longitude of 10 degrees west. At a longitude of 10 degrees west. The north latitude. The north latitude. The northern latitudes. The northern latitudes. Terrestrial latitude. Terrestrial latitude. 50 degrees of latitude. 50 degrees of latitude. Cold latitudes. Cold latitudes. High latitudes. High latitudes. Determine the latitude. Determine the latitude. Education with wide latitude. Education with wide latitude. Lack of latitude. Lack of latitude. Lack latitude. Lack latitude. Neutral territory. Neutral territory. Neutral waters. Neutral waters.
A neutral color scheme. A neutral color scheme. Neutral tones. Neutral tones. To leave the car in neutral. To leave the car in neutral. A neutral attitude. A neutral attitude. A neutral opinion. A neutral opinion. A neutral nation. A neutral nation. A neutral zone. A neutral zone. Keep neutral. Keep neutral. Remain neutral. Remain neutral. A neutral tint. A neutral tint. Neutral blue. Neutral blue. A neutral sort of person. A neutral sort of person. Flip the gear into neutral. Flip the gear into neutral. Neutralize snake venom. Neutralize snake venom. Neutralize snake poison. Neutralize snake poison. Neutralize the poison. Neutralize the poison. A neutralizing agent. A neutralizing agent. Neutralize an enemy position. Neutralize an enemy position. Neutralize propaganda. Neutralize propaganda. Neutralize the efforts. Neutralize the efforts. Physical exertion. Physical exertion. Strenuous exertion. Strenuous exertion. The exertion of force. The exertion of force. The exertion of authority. The exertion of authority. Use exertion. Use exertion. Make exertion. Make exertion. Put forth exertion. Put forth exertion. A wonderful exertion of willpower. A wonderful exertion of willpower. Undue exertion. Undue exertion. An exertion of mind. An exertion of mind. Without any exertion. Without any exertion. Exert influence upon. Exert influence upon. Exert an evil influence. Exert an evil influence. Exert all one's powers. Exert all one's powers. Exert your willpower. Exert your willpower. Exert pressure on a person. Exert pressure on a person. Exert every effort. Exert every effort. Exert sovereign authority. Exert sovereign authority. To sue for divorce. To sue for divorce. Sue out pardon. Sue out pardon. Sue for a breach of promise. Sue for a breach of promise. Sue a person for damages. Sue a person for damages. Sue for damages. Sue for damages. Sue to a person. Sue to a person. Sue for peace. Sue for peace. Obtain a proportion of the profit. Obtain a proportion of the profit. The proportion of births to the population. The proportion of births to the population. The proportion of 3 to 1. The proportion of 3 to 1. In proportion to his success. In proportion to his success.
A house tall in proportion to its width. A house tall in proportion to its width. Due proportion. Due proportion. Proper proportion. Proper proportion. Be in proportion. Be in proportion. Be out of proportion. Be out of proportion. Keep a sense of proportion. Keep a sense of proportion. A rock of gigantic proportions. A rock of gigantic proportions. To proportion the expenses to the receipts. To proportion the expenses to the receipts. A large proportion of the total. A large proportion of the total. Direct proportion. Direct proportion. Inverse proportion. Inverse proportion. Do a sum in proportion. Do a sum in proportion. Do a sum by proportion. Do a sum by proportion. A life of selfless service to the community. A life of selfless service to the community. Specimen plant. Specimen plant. A specimen page. A specimen page. A specimen copy. A specimen copy. A fossil specimen. A fossil specimen. A butterfly specimen. A butterfly specimen. Stuffed specimens. Stuffed specimens. To provide a specimen. To provide a specimen. To take a specimen. To take a specimen. A state-of-the-art system. A state-of-the-art system. State-of-the-art technology. State-of-the-art technology. State-of-the-art equipment. State-of-the-art equipment. High-tech weaponry. High-tech weaponry. Uproot a tree. Uproot a tree. Uproot poverty. Uproot poverty. Uproot evil practices. Uproot evil practices. Uproot a bad habit. Uproot a bad habit. Uproot weeds. Uproot weeds. An old worn-out suit. An old worn-out suit. A worn-out garment. A worn-out garment. A worn-out joke. A worn-out joke. A worn-out sofa. A worn-out sofa. Be utterly worn out. Be utterly worn out. Devoid of sense. Devoid of sense. Be devoid of reason. Be devoid of reason. A man devoid of humor. A man devoid of humor. Devoid of pretense. Devoid of pretense. Devise a method. Devise a method. Devise a scenario. Devise a scenario. Plot a scenario. Plot a scenario. Devise a wicked plot. Devise a wicked plot. Devise a stratagem. Devise a stratagem. Devise a plot. Devise a plot. Devise a means. Devise a means. Devise a plan. Devise a plan. Devise a strategy. Devise a strategy. Devise a technique. Devise a technique. A water-saving device. A water-saving device. Install a safety device. Install a safety device. Tracking device. Tracking device.
Protective device. Protective device. By some device or other. By some device or other. To have good vision. To have good vision. A leader of vision. A leader of vision. A statesman without vision. A statesman without vision. A vision of loveliness. A vision of loveliness. Beyond one's vision. Beyond one's vision. Impair one's vision. Impair one's vision. The distance of vision. The distance of vision. Double vision. Double vision. A poet's vision. A poet's vision. Visions of wealth. Visions of wealth. A hideous vision. A hideous vision. A glorious vision. A glorious vision. The lovely vision of the bride. The lovely vision of the bride. Have a momentary vision of the sea. Have a momentary vision of the sea. A visionary leader. A visionary leader. Visionary experiences. Visionary experiences. A visionary image. A visionary image. The visionary world. The visionary world. A visionary mystic. A visionary mystic. A visionary enthusiast. A visionary enthusiast. Visionary schemes. Visionary schemes. Visionary evils. Visionary evils. Visual aid. Visual aid. Audio-visual aids for the classroom. Audio-visual aids for the classroom. The visual arts. The visual arts. Visual signaling. Visual signaling. The visual nerve. The visual nerve. A visual object. A visual object. The visual focus of a lens. The visual focus of a lens. Make a visual flight. Make a visual flight. Visualize events. Visualize events. Visualize an operation. Visualize an operation. Visually exciting. Visually exciting. A visually handicapped child. A visually handicapped child. A visually difficult book. A visually difficult book. Inspect visually. Inspect visually. Visible benefits. Visible benefits. A visible police presence. A visible police presence. Lights no longer visible. Lights no longer visible. Stars not visible to the naked eye. Stars not visible to the naked eye. With visible impatience. With visible impatience. Without visible means of support. Without visible means of support. Barely visible. Barely visible. Clearly visible. Clearly visible. Stars invisible to the naked eye. Stars invisible to the naked eye. Invisible earnings. Invisible earnings. The invisible in the dark. The invisible in the dark. Invisible differences. Invisible differences. Invisible exports and imports. Invisible exports and imports.
To supervise building work. To supervise building work. Supervise staff. Supervise staff. Supervise more strictly. Supervise more strictly. Supervise work. Supervise work. Supervise a project. Supervise a project. Supervise a dissertation. Supervise a dissertation. Revise a textbook. Revise a textbook. Amend a law. Amend a law. Revise a law. Revise a law. Revise one's plan. Revise one's plan. Revised and enlarged. Revised and enlarged. Revise one's thinking. Revise one's thinking. Revise orthographic rules. Revise orthographic rules. Revise an ordinance. Revise an ordinance. Revise proof. Revise proof. A revised edition of a textbook. A revised edition of a textbook. Complete revision. Complete revision. Consent to a revision. Consent to a revision. Approve a revision. Approve a revision. A system in need of revision. A system in need of revision. A revision of trading standards. A revision of trading standards. A revision of taxes. A revision of taxes. Improvise a sermon. Improvise a sermon. Improvise a poem. Improvise a poem. Extemporize a poem. Extemporize a poem. An improvised speech. An improvised speech. Improvise a dinner. Improvise a dinner.